the most decorated Marine who turned on his own country's wars. One of only 2 Marines in American history ever awarded the Medal of Honor, twice fought in nearly every war his country sent him to. Then he spent the rest of his life telling Americans that most of those wars were never about defending the country at all. His name was Smedley Butler, and what he said still makes people uncomfortable today. Chapter 1. The Testimony They Didn't Want to Hear. Washington, D.C., 1934. Smedley Butler sits in front of a special committee of the United States Congress. He is retired now, a private citizen, but every man in that room knows exactly who he is. The most decorated Marine alive, 2 Medals of Honor, 34 years of combat service across nearly every corner of the world America had sent troops. He is here to say something that will make powerful people very angry. Butler tells the committee that a group of wealthy businessmen approached him with a plan. They wanted him to lead a march of veterans on Washington. They wanted him to help force the president out of office. They believed his name and his reputation could make it work. He refused. Then he came to Congress and said it out loud, in public, on the record, with his own name attached to every word. The press doesn't fully know what to do with this story. A war hero accusing American businessmen of plotting against the president sounds like something from a novel, not a Tuesday afternoon in Washington. But to understand why Smedley Butler was willing to stand in that room and say what he said, you have to go back to where his career actually started. Because the same eyes that watched this hearing in 1934 belonged to a 17-year-old boy who lied about his age just to get into the fight. Chapter 2. The Boy Who Lied His Way into the Marines. West Chester, Pennsylvania, 1898. Smedley Darlington. Butler grows up in a respected Quaker family. His father is a congressman. Quakers are known for their commitment to peace, not war. Smedley wants none of that life. When the United States declares war on Spain, he is 16 years old, too young to enlist. He lies about his age and joins the Marine Corps anyway. He is commissioned as a second lieutenant before he is old enough to vote. What follows is not a slow climb through the ranks. It is one deployment after another, almost without pause. The Philippines. China during the Boxer Rebellion, where he is wounded in combat at just 18 years old. Honduras. Nicaragua. Mexico, at Veracruz, where he earns his first Medal of Honor, leading Marines through brutal street fighting in 1914. He is not yet 35 years old and already one of the most experienced combat officers in the entire Marine Corps. But the deployment that will change how he sees everything is still ahead of him. And what happens there will plant the seed of every word he says in that congressional hearing 20 years later. Chapter 3. Haiti. Haiti, 1915. Butler leads Marines into the Haitian countryside to put down an armed rebellion. He fights with the same aggression and skill that has defined his entire career. At Fort Rivière, he leads an assault on a heavily defended position, personally crawling through a drainage culvert under fire to get his men into position for the attack. The position falls. Butler earns his second Medal of Honor. By every measure that the Marine Corps uses to judge an officer, this is a complete success. The mission was accomplished. The men under his command survived. The enemy position was taken. But something about Haiti stays with him in a way that the Philippines and China and Mexico never quite did. He starts to notice who actually benefits when American Marines secure a country like Haiti. It is not the Haitian people. It is American banks, American companies, American business interests that now operate with the U.S. military standing guard over their investments. He doesn't say anything publicly yet. He is still a serving officer. He still has decades left in uniform. But the question is planted, and it will not go away. Chapter 4. The War That Confirmed Everything. France, 1918. Butler serves during the final year of World War I, though not in the direct combat role that defined his earlier career. By now, he is a senior officer, responsible for training and moving thousands of Marines through the war's brutal machinery. He watches young men go into that machinery and come out changed, wounded, or not at all. When the war ends, Butler continues his career for another decade, eventually reaching the rank of Major General, one of the highest ranks in the entire Marine Corps. He commands Marines in China again. He oversees major training programs. By any traditional measure, his career is a complete success story. He retires in 1931, and then he does something that almost no decorated general in American history had done before him. He starts telling the public exactly what he believes those wars were really for. Chapter 5. War is a racket. In the years after his retirement, Butler becomes one of the most outspoken critics of American military intervention that the country had ever seen. Not from the outside, but from someone who had personally led the troops into nearly every conflict he was now criticizing. He writes and speaks publicly about his belief that American military interventions in Haiti, Nicaragua, Mexico, and elsewhere had primarily protected the financial interests of American banks and corporations, rather than serving any genuine national security purpose. He says he had spent much of his career, in his own words, making certain countries safe for American business interests to operate freely. This is not a man who avoided the fighting and is now criticizing from a position of safety. This is the most decorated Marine of his generation, a two-time Medal of Honor recipient who personally led combat operations in nearly a dozen countries, saying that he now believes much of what he did was not what the country had been told it was. And then comes 1934 and the congressional testimony about the alleged plot to use him as the face of a movement against the sitting president. He testifies. He names what he was told. He refuses to be the man they wanted him to be. The plot, whatever its true scale really was, never happens. Some historians argue it was minor and poorly organized. Others believe it was more serious than the public ever fully understood. What is not disputed is that Smedley Butler stood in front of Congress and said it out loud rather than staying silent. He dies in 1940, 6 years after that testimony. He does not live to see World War II fully unfold, or to see how the questions he raised about war and profit would keep returning generation after generation in American history. Chapter 6. What he left behind. The Marine Corps still honors Smedley Butler's combat record. 2 Medals of Honor remains one of the rarest achievements in the history of the United States military, and his name appears in the official history of nearly every major early 20th century intervention the Marines were part of. But his other legacy sits less comfortably in official memory. A war hero who spent his retirement telling Americans that the wars he fought may not have been what they were told. A general who said the loudest warnings about war profiteering came from someone who had personally done the fighting, not someone avoiding it. He is remembered by some as a whistleblower who said something true and inconvenient. He is remembered by others as a complicated figure whose later claims are still debated by historians today. What is certain is this: the most decorated Marine of his era stood in front of the United States Congress and said something that powerful people did not want said. And he did it using his own name, his own record, and his own 34 years of combat experience as proof that he had earned the right to say it. Next week, the Marine they called the greatest leader the Corps ever produced. A general so respected that bases and buildings still carry his name today. Subscribe. His story is coming.